Hi everyone, it's Marla. Thanks for joining me today. The total solar eclipse of April 8th, 2024 will mark a major change in the history of America. It's the beginning of the end for a very old cycle, a cycle since the beginning of this country itself. You may not even notice this shift immediately. In fact, you may even notice that things appear to get even worse before the change begins to be seen, or rather felt. But it is coming nonetheless. America is healing the division that has plagued it. This is a big statement, I know, and I've been watching and waiting for this for years. I don't want to overly focus on the astrology, but this is about the eclipse and the triggering of cycles that tell this story, so I have to talk about it some. This story starts with the birth chart of this great nation. I want to draw your attention to this symbol that looks like a key. This is Chiron. Chiron is a centaur, half man, half horse, or rather half god in his case. And in some ways, Chiron represents the split in humans between their higher nature and lower or animal nature. Chiron's father was Saturn, and you can see in the chart of the United States, Saturn sits directly opposite Chiron. Now, Saturn wasn't a good father to Chiron. Saturn hated him because he was half animal and abandoned Chiron. This left Chiron with a deep wound of feeling unaccepted and ashamed. However, Chiron was adopted by Apollo, the god of healing, music, and the sun. And Apollo taught Chiron how to be a great healer, and he achieved a lot of renown. Chiron has a deep emotional wound due to the nature of his birth and the abandonment by his parents. Yet his wound inspires him to grow, to become better, and to help others. To finish the story of Chiron, Heracles, the great warrior, accidentally hits Chiron with a poison arrow. Chiron's immortal, he can't die, but now he also has a physical wound that can't be healed. It's very painful, and eventually Chiron asks Zeus to free Prometheus, and in exchange, Chiron will sacrifice his immortality. Zeus accepts, and Chiron is placed in the sign of Sagittarius. Now, it's important to this story of America to share about Chiron, so that those of you who don't know a lot about astrology can understand the representation here. Chiron represents wounding and pain, be it emotional, mental, or physical. Yet Chiron constantly aspires to transcend the pain. Chiron doesn't become closed off and miserly. Instead, the wound creates compassion for others and a desire to heal them. Even at the end of his life, he saves Prometheus. Here in the chart, Chiron opposes his father Saturn, and these square the United States sun. The sun is his foster father, Apollo. The god Mercury is also here as well. And this aspect represents the deep pain America was born with. In order to understand this wound, you have to understand the importance of America. First of all, America's sun sits at the 13th degree of Cancer. This is the degree of Sirius, the sun of our sun. It's the brightest star in our sky. Spiritually, Sirius is sacred, and higher universal knowledge flows from it to our sun and then to our planet. Sirius is the highest consciousness of love and brotherhood. This represents the ideal that America was founded on. It's truly a blessing. America is a chosen place, an experiment set up in realms higher than Earth, but that's a story for another time, but one I'll definitely share in future. America has the highest form of government on Earth. Its foundation is freedom, liberty, and equality. This was pretty radical in 1776 and still pretty radical today. The Founding Fathers created America based on their ideals. Now, whatever your thoughts are on them, let's acknowledge they were great thinkers who were able to create something so revolutionary that even today, 248 years later, it still hasn't been surpassed. Yet, although the founders set the framework for this ideal, They weren't able to fully materialize it in their lifetime, or their children's lifetimes, or their children's lifetimes. Until even today, we haven't been able to materialize the full import of their intentions. And this is reflected here in the chart of the United States. Sun, Chiron, Saturn. Our wound we seem unable to heal even after all these years. Yet I have great hope that we will see signs of this change over the next 2 years. The founding fathers of our great country receive a lot of judgment, but think about the task they were given. A task that they didn't even fully see or understand in 1776. You see, America is not just a country, but a microcosm of the world. Every nation, every religion, every philosophy exists in America. Think about that. America is the shining star of the world. Earth, Sirius energy, bringing together humanity in freedom. A tall order indeed. So our friend Chiron here is still seeking healing, but the good news is Chiron is now having his return. This means Chiron is now starting to transit this area where he is located in the United States natal chart. This is a momentous occasion for us. Chiron returns here about every 49 or 50 years. I think we will be going through this deep healing until 2026, which happens to be the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Many people focus on the U.S. Pluto return, which of course was important, but this transit is the one that I have been watching and waiting for. You can see it here on the double chart of the United States and the eclipse, and you can see the degrees here. Sun, Moon, Chiron, 19 degrees, 24 minutes of Aries. Not only are we now deeply feeling the return, but the Great American Eclipse of 2024 will be on the same degree as transiting Chiron and conjunct the United States Chiron within 1 degree. This is triggering a deep clearing of our wound. It won't be easy. The dead and putrid tissue must be cut out and the wound sutured. We need to go through collective therapy and learn to communicate once again. Communication will be a big theme, but let's start back further, because what my inner guidance has shown me is that what is healing for America is political division. The Sabian symbol for the United States Chiron is a boxer is entering the ring. Against the caution of our first president, George Washington, America developed into a two-party political system that's been at odds with each other since 1789. An interesting fact about this eclipse is that it's part of Saros cycle 139. Saros cycles repeat every 18 years, and they're a way for us to categorize eclipses. There was an eclipse in Saros cycle 139 in 1789, the year George Washington was elected president. Washington was the only president not to be affiliated with a political party. Washington's opponent was John Adams, who was also born in a year where there was a Saros 139 eclipse. Adams became vice president and is considered the founder of the Federalist Party, along with Alexander Hamilton, George Washington's Secretary of the Treasury. Washington's then Secretary of State, Thomas Jefferson, along with James Madison, one of the main authors of the Constitution, founded the Democratic Republicans. Put in simple terms, the Federalists believed in strong central or federal government and a centralized bank, while the Democratic Republicans favored states' rights, individual freedoms, and no central bank. So we could say in 1789, our friend Chiron stepped into the ring. Well, we could say that originally happened in 1776 officially, but you get the idea. It's been back and forth with varying degrees of cordiality and antagonism. In fact, Chiron's father, Saturn, is on the Sabian symbol, a circular path. Saturn represents the structure of government, and it squares the United States sun, acting as a foundation for America's ideals. But Saturn can also represent authority, power, dogmatism, unforgiveness, and domination. Saturn's saving grace, perhaps, is it sits in Libra, the sign of balance, justice, and the law. Yet these too America has struggled to find fully. It's not easy to create balance and justice for everyone and each individual's desire for personal freedom. And so the boxers in the ring have traveled this circular path for 248 years with no clear winner and much, much discord. In another sign, the asteroid called Adams in the chart of the solar eclipse opposes the asteroid Jefferson in the chart of the United States. Adam's Sabian symbol is a fragile miss, representative of proud old blood, is wed in a marriage ceremony by a priest to an eager youth of the new order. Could we finally reach a conclusion between the old and the new? Does the priest represent that through religion or spiritual means, these two ideas can finally be wed? I want to note that the eclipse is at 19 degrees 24 minutes Aries, and transiting Chiron is at 19 degrees 24 minutes of Aries. This is, well, pretty crazy, very, very rare, and it shows the depth of healing that is available to humanity in general now. We are in a momentous shift in consciousness, and while it will take time for all to unfold, we are well underway. It's not just the two-party system that is reflected in the boxer analogy, but wars as well, and the animosity and defensiveness of all the different groups in America. The founders created an ideal and they didn't embody it. They didn't free the slaves. They didn't give the indigenous people the same rights. Women were not recognized. Some religions were believed better than others. Still, does the ideal not still have merit? Do we throw it out and turn to Marxism? The founders didn't live the ideal, but neither do we. We, each one of us, are still the boxers entering the ring. We blame them, yet we have done little better. At the eclipse, the south node of the moon hangs on Saturn. This represents our past, our history for good or ill, and it's an opportunity to change the course for good or ill. But we have to decide. The rules that govern the South Node are that the past must be looked at and healed. The wound must be cleansed or it continues to fester, ultimately holding one back from reaching their full ideal or purpose. This is America's turn to decide. Will we heal and move forward? Or will we continue on this circular path of division? It's interesting to note that on the day Donald Trump was inaugurated, January 20th, 2017, the planet Uranus was on the exact Chiron degree. A boxer enters the ring. Now, whether you love or hate Donald J. Trump, you have to acknowledge the symbolism for Uranus's change, revolution, freedom, and finding new paths. Has each of you witnessed a boxer entered the ring that day? And how you view that fight is about your own perception and belief of who America is and what she should be. From the outside, that energy, which is still very much in effect today, looks like a shit show. It was as if every citizen in America got pulled into the ring that day. The gloves came off, if you will. President Trump acts for us as a catalyst of the battle of the circular path. If one chooses to look at this from a higher perspective, a deeply spiritual perspective, you will see that President Trump has the unenviable job of acting as a force for change in each of us. Indeed, he creates a strong feeling, whether good or bad, in people around the world. But someone had to do it. Someone had to step through the circular path and try and forge a new route. There was no way the person chosen to do that would be loved by everybody. And indeed, President Trump himself is not likely to be the one who will bring the full ideal of the founding fathers to victory. But his role in the change has been momentous. Again, I say to you, understand that this is whether you like him or dislike him. He's been the fall guy to expose all the poison hidden in the festering wound that is making healing possible. Trump himself has his natal Chiron conjunct the United States Saturn, which represents that he has agreed to this difficult task because he owes America a karmic debt from the past. And with the South Node transiting here now, something about that will become clear to all of us. Another influence at this eclipse is how we speak to each other. Chiron squares Mercury in the chart of the United States, and at the eclipse, Mercury is squaring the United States eclipse while Mercury is in retrograde. This means Mercury is going to cross Chiron 3 times in the next several weeks. If America is going to heal, we need to consider how we speak and how we listen. Listening, perhaps, being more important. We're so intent on fighting, we can't let our guard down long enough to hear what the other person has to say. This won't be easy. We have to learn to open ourselves to compromise. Lastly, let's look at the nodes of the moon for the United States. The South Node is here in Aquarius, and it makes a conjunction with an asteroid called Union. There is the ideal of universal brotherhood and the freedom of the individual. The problem is, no one on Earth has been able to embody these ideals. Aquarius is equally ruled by Saturn and Uranus. It wants freedom, but often finds itself forced into the old structures of humans. That circular path again. How to create a perfect union that gives freedom but also has structure. How can government protect individual rights without becoming so big and bloated that it ends up trying to legislate the very ideal of brotherhood, which must by its very nature be organic and internal? It must come from the moral compass and compassion of each citizen rather than laws and decrees. Hence, America's gotten lost and off track in regards to what a free utopian society should be and how to create it. The North Node, representing what is to be, or the key to solving the South Node dilemma, is here in the sign of Leo. In Leo, we find the individual who is free to express himself. We can only unite when everyone feels free to be who they are. Unity comes from sharing creative endeavors and giving space for each person to contribute what makes them special. This is what will ultimately heal us as a country and as a planet. Leo also rules the heart. Aquarius more related to the mind. Aquarius has the great vision of brotherhood but lacks the heart needed to finally materialize this utopia. We need no legislation, only love will be what finally heals and seals this wound. So at the eclipse, asteroid Union by transit is on the North Node of the United States and opposing asteroid Union there on the South Node in the chart of the United States. This is an activation to combine these two signs and to meet each other halfway. Some of us citizens carry the heart, the love of individual rights and freedom. Others carry the ideas, the structure, and the detachment that sets the proper foundation. A balance of individual and state rights with federal government. It's not clear now, but we can get there with resolve. There are a few other things here too. The asteroid Truth in the chart of the United States makes a square to the nodes, and this represents that through circumstance, truths on some levels are obscured. At the eclipse, the asteroid Karma will be transiting this asteroid Truth in the United States chart. As well, transiting Truth is on the South Node of the United States, along with, coincidentally, the asteroid called Karl Marx. The political division and ethical issues have created a breakdown in the very nature of truth for us. At least, what is our truth? Truth is completely obscured right now as the boxers battle it out. Walking the circular path has created untruths. Each side, whether political or some other social ill, has learned to only see their truth, not the truth. The media, which was meant to expose truth, has become so twisted that each one only espouses propaganda of their party. They muddle the truth instead of exposing it. My spiritual team has said to me, the eclipses of 2024 will be about truth, many levels of truth, and it starts within each of us. We each have to search ourselves for the truth of who we are. How we view truth shapes how we understand our reality. In that sense, it's based on our truth and not the truth. Unfortunately, most people don't understand this fully yet. But we have to expose within ourselves the falsehoods that we have been programmed to believe are true. How our inner defense system makes falsehoods fact. It will take a while. It's a big topic and one I'll be speaking about in future vlogs. But know that truth will come to light this year, and that these truths are likely to make us question the nature of reality itself. I'll leave you with these questions. Can America heal? Can we stop fighting and instead offer a hand to our neighbor in friendship? The Sabian symbol for the United States sun is a very old man facing a vast dark space to the northeast. To me, this represents that the final verdict of whether the ideals of freedom and the light of liberty is not yet written. The founders started something that at least I think was pretty great, and then they passed the baton to us. And they said, you think you can do better? Go ahead. So far, we haven't lived up to the challenge. Instead of looking at ourselves, some would rather pick apart their bones while not creating any sense of true unity either. The truth is, we each have to want this little experiment called the United States of America to work enough to create the change in ourselves. We have to step out of the ring being also a circular path, and finish what Jefferson, Washington, Adams, Madison, Hamilton, Franklin, and many others started. Will you dedicate yourself to this change? God bless the United States of America. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share. You might enjoy some other videos I've done in the past, such as Why the Age of Aquarius Needs Leo, or the karmic debt that Donald Trump owes the United States. But keep in mind that video discusses past lives and so requires you to have an open mind to ideas that reincarnation exists and how we heal our karmic stories. Thanks for listening. Until next time, sending you a lot of love.